All right, welcome to another episode of Pursuit. We will be continuing on our study. But before we do that, Asha found this popcorn that we're gonna try. It's what is it? Sour Patch Kids popcorn. Is there like?
There are no words. You have to try it.
Oh, so I can't even ask questions.
Nah, just try it.
Okay.
Kevin, don't forget to get your bowl because I know you like
I gave him some of mine because there was some spillage.
Okay.
So we're good. We're covered.
I was just extra flavor. Hurricane.
Is it like candy coated? Like, you know that rainbow popcorn?
The camera.
Remy already said yes. So. Oh, ASMR.
I don't hear it. Can you crunch louder? Now, Kevin, you crunch. Give it to the people. The people want to hear.
Why do we do this?
Please.
Oh, there was Sour Patch in it.
Can you chew on the mic? Ooh, yeah, it tastes good.
In the popped corn.
You're not chewing.
This is interesting.
I can't see.
That was
put
a
your
good
mic next to
one.
your straw. Kevin.
Why do we do
I'm
this,
not mad
guys?
at this.
I am not
I
a fan.
kind of like it.
Fun. It's an acquired taste. You gotta keep going.
Are there different flavors?
Maybe. Find
I
out.
have blue and I have red in here and green in here.
It's a taste up from SpongeBob.
I like it. It reminds me of that rainbow popcorn we used to get when we were kids. Do you know what I'm
that
talking
you find
about?
in the
I know what you're
restaurant
talking about,
shops?
but
Yeah,
not really.
these are good.
Oh, dang it.
Can you chew closer to the mic?
No.
Why? Like, just bring it in. And
No.
taste it.
Farah looked up.
Yes, come on. Oh, yeah.
I think that's a pass.
Have you tried
I
it?
like that.
We're on camera.
I don't think I've ever had a blue Sour Patch Kid before. Are there? Oh, it's hard.
I would defer to you. I feel like you would know because you always have some type
Yeah.
of.
I have some
Gummy
sour
candy.
sketties in my pocket if anyone wants.
That's exactly my point. You would be the one to know.
I feel close.
The Sour Patches themselves feel like stale because they're like harder. But I like this. I like this popcorn.
We haven't had a light.
She said 10 out of 10.
Mmm.
I would give it like a
I'm giving like a
5 out of
solid
10.
8.
5 out of 10.
5?
Yeah.
I agree.
I don't like
2 out
it.
of 10.
It's not like I wouldn't buy this and eat it just because I want to eat a snack. But if it's there,
I feel like
I'd
this is
make
like the perfect movie snack.
Okay, so when we go. No, because they have this, but they have like the Oreo one to this.
Yeah.
That's. You remember you? Yeah. Who are you pregnant with at the time? Connor.
You really don't like it?
I really don't.
That's probably why I like it so much.
I'll have yours.
You can. I told you from the beginning you didn't have to put more in my bowl.
Yeah, but I also didn't expect to like it this much.
All right.
You're welcome. ASMR.
That was a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, that was like not a good crunch. Anyway, we're also gonna play Heads Up.
But wait.
There's more. We're gonna play Heads Up. Normally, when I play Heads Up, we do like the act it out one prompt, but this
Okay.
one had miscellaneous.
Okay.
So we're gonna do that instead.
Okay.
Do you want to guess first, or do you want to?
I'll guess first. Why not?
Okay. Okay. I was all right. Placed on forehead. Thank you. It's a game, and you go like this when you play it.
That's every game.
No, it's not.
Family Feud.
No,
hit-
because then I would hit the buzzer.
You hit the table?
I rap.
Oh, dominoes?
There you
Okay.
go. Go down.
Forgot how to
Okay.
do stuff.
It's this game, right?
Oh, yeah.
Rock, paper, scissors?
What's the second one?
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot?
No.
Why
What's
you
the
say
second item?
Rock, paper?
Just the one word.
Paper?
There you go.
Why do I have to say just the one word?
Because that's what it was. What do you read?
But I said the
What do you read?
book.
Thank you. It's not soft. It's not
It's
bendy.
hard?
It's
Stiff.
There you go. Wow, look, a shooting.
Star.
There you go. Time. You got 4 words.
You right with this?
Pencil.
Yeah. Not roller skates.
Rollerblades.
No.
Ice skates.
No.
Skateboard.
You use it. People use it.
Scooter.
No. I don't know why I can't think of any other way. Not a surfboard.
Skateboard.
Yes, there
I
we go.
said that.
No, you didn't. No.
Ice skates.
No.
Skateboard.
This water animal has a weapon on its head.
Swordfish.
Yeah, there you go. You eat on this.
Plates.
What you have on your phone right now?
Timer.
It's a orange vegetable.
Carrot.
Yep. Smaller than the galaxy.
Universe.
Smaller than the
I don't
galaxy.
know. The Milky Way.
No, that is the galaxy. Smaller than the galaxy. Smaller than the solar system.
Solar system. Hi, I got 6. Loser. Okay.
I have no clue what any of these openings have to do.
They don't. They're just so fun. I love doing heads up.
God created the galaxy and the universe.
All right.
Take it away.
All right. So, so tonight we're going to look at God in us versus God through us, right? Or God working through us. And there is a difference there. So how would you describe God working through us versus God in us?
When God is working in you, it's more of it's kind of in the word. It's an internal response. So you kind of see changes within yourself. When he's working through you, I feel like it's more of an external stimuli where you'll see you'll see, when he's working through you, you'll see works, like physical works that may be done. So I'll speak to someone that I've never spoken to, and it'll be exactly what they wanted to hear or what they needed to hear or something like that.
Right. So, okay. So with that then, do you think one is more important than the other?
No.
No. Okay.
Actually, no. Because I was gonna say that God working in you is more important, but also He's working in you so that He can work through you. So it's like they go hand in hand.
Right. Okay. So with that idea, right, of we want God working in us so that He can work through us, right? Mm-hmm. Why then do we not want to just skip to the part where God works through us? Because that can happen.
Yeah.
Right? So why would we not just want to skip to that part?
Because it does happen. It is just not as... I feel like when He's working in you to work through you, there's more of a build-up, right? So there's more of lifestyle changes that you make within yourself to go from a life of sin to a godly life or a Christ-like goal. So when He's working in you, it kind of... there's more of a purpose behind it, right? So when He does work through you as the result of working in you, you can see His works in you kind of personified in that way. Versus when He's working through you, sometimes you might not even realize it unless you know that He has been working in you as well.
Yeah. So, and I totally agree with what you're saying. So let's look at Mark chapter 1 verses 30 to 36, right? Or 37. Right? It says, now Simon's mother-in-law was sick in bed with a high fever. They told Jesus about her right away. So He went to her bedside, took her by the hand, and helped her sit up. The fever left her, and she prepared a meal for them. That evening, after sunset, many sick and demon-possessed people were brought to Jesus. The whole town gathered at the door to watch. So Jesus healed many people who were sick with various diseases, and He cast out many demons. But because the demons knew who He was, He did not allow them to speak. Before daybreak the next morning, Jesus got up and went to an isolated place to pray. Later, Simon and the others went out to find Him, and when they found Him, they said, everyone is looking for you. Okay, so this is a really interesting piece of scripture because, again, going back to what we talked about last week, to what how John ends his gospel, we see again, there's a ton of people that get healed. There's a ton of demons that get cast out, but for the sake of the narrative of Jesus, they kind of just have to gloss over it, right?
Like the brevity.
Yeah. But with that, right, we see the impact of what happens when God works through someone, right? Because Jesus heals one person, right? And it's interesting because of all the things we see kind of Jesus heal people of, I feel like fever ranks low, right? Because like he'll heal blind people, right? Or maybe it ranks low as far as like the dramatics of it,
Yeah.
right? Because he'll heal blind people, he'll heal the deaf, the mute, the demon possessed, people who are crippled, all of these things.
But fevers can escalate, especially in the elderly. So
Or babies.
depends, or babies, just the
Or that COVID fever.
immunosuppressed community. So depends on how you want to look at it, really.
Like I said, I feel like on the scale of dramatic healings, this is low, right? This ranks low. But, and even the way he does it, he just like
Yeah.
picked up her hand and then helped her sit up. Like he didn't, like again with blind Bartimaeus, he like spits in the mud and puts in his eyes and
I
things
bet
like
his
that.
skin was probably great after that too. You've ever done a mud mask?
No comment on that. And but again, right? Jesus doing this now brings
Other people.
all of these people, right? And it brings like the whole town to the point where they're all trying to watch through the door to this house or home, right? I don't know if saying house is the right way to put it, but it's really interesting that we see the results of what happens when God is working through us, right?
Yep.
But at the same time, it's only Jesus doing the work, right? Can you imagine the demand that he had on him?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mentioned that in the last episode too. Like the amount of social energy that you have to have just like ready to go. But he also had a lot of like quiet downtime where it was just like him and God. So I feel like that helped to balance him out and prepare him for it as well.
To be honest, it's not even like the social like battery to deal with everyone, right? It's the actual physical toll,
Yeah.
right? Because like, I mean, obviously I've been like around a lot of preachers and stuff, and I've seen like, they can do like a 30-minute sermon, and like there is like a physical toll in some
Yeah.
ways, right? I've heard like other pastors and stuff talk about like, as soon as they're done preaching, like they need to like literally just go rest or
Yeah.
something, right? Because there is like a toll on you. And I can only imagine, I mean, we spoke about the woman with the issue of blood last episode, right? She touched his clothes
Energy is left.
and energy has left him, right? So imagine him now going, casting out demons, right? And he has to do it in such a way that demons don't speak, right? Which is a very interesting detail that gets included
Yeah.
in the...
I've read that, but I've never like picked up on the fact that he was like, they didn't speak.
There's a lot of fun little facts in the life of Jesus where he avoids people
Speaking?
like saying who he is.
Ah.
There's a lot of that. And
Like
it's,
who Jesus
like
is.
who Jesus truly is. Like, because like right now, again, this is like chapter 1 of Mark's gospel, which I think his gospel starts on the baptism, right? So I'm not sure how far into the timeline he is, but again, like Jesus is like, I'm not yet ready to reveal like truly who I am yet and things like that. It's really interesting, but that's a side note. So there's this huge demand on Jesus because we see the results of God working through him.
Yep.
Right? And I think that's something that's really interesting where, like in...
It just wasn't centered. It was messing with my mind. My brain.
Like, I think in society today, we're always very focused on results.
Yep.
Right? We're, I guess, like a result or driven like culture, right? And we see that play out here, yet in verse 30 something, because that's where we're reading from, verse 35, right? Jesus got up and went to an isolated place to pray, right? Which you were also talking about, right? Jesus had that downtime,
Yep.
right? How important do you think it is that Jesus had that downtime?
Oh, I think it's very important because not only does it kind of give him time to like just have a quiet moment by himself, but also it's when you have that quiet downtime and it's just you talking to God, he can also open your eyes to things, right? So like when God is working through you, it's not always just like your conscious telling you to do certain things, right? Like he also speaks to you. So a lot of times I feel like it could have been like him like kind of mapping out the day for him. Like you're gonna see this kind of person. Maybe not like exactly like that, but like in certain ways. Like this is what you need to be prepared for.
And I think it's really interesting because, again, going back to imagine how tired Jesus was, right? Yet, Jesus doesn't take the opportunity necessarily to like sleep in or anything because clearly he woke up before the rest of the disciples, right? So he had and it's, of course, the disciples probably didn't do much, right? Compared to what Jesus did, right? They probably didn't do much, right? Maybe they did like some crowd control or something. That's really it, right? It sounds like they slept in though, right? So again, it's really interesting to see how Jesus responds to these things because though everyone is seeing the result of God through him, it seems though Jesus understands the importance of having God in him, right? So he has to go now and say, all right, I'm going to go, I'm going to isolate myself, I'm going to pray, I'm going to connect with God before anything else happens, right? So with that, how important do you think it is for us as believers to actually start our day in prayer? Because there are some people who be like, well, I prayed at the end of the day, right? So thoughts?
So I think it is very important to start your day with some kind of praise or worship. Because I know a lot of times people are like, well, I like if some people work night shift, right? Their start of the day is not the morning. So I'm not saying you should start your morning off with it, but I think to have that attitude of prayer of worship throughout your day, it has to start in the like when you first start your day. And then it helps to set the tone for that day. So it doesn't have to be some super elaborate, like long, like 30 minutes or more, like hours of prayer and worship and stuff, but just kind of getting your mindset straight, right? To be like, I'm gonna have like today, I'm gonna have a day of like worship, like throughout my day. Like it can be in your drives at work or whatever. But just to have your mindset straight and to have at least a conversation with God before you go out about.
So earlier you had said when we were talking about the difference between God in us versus God working through us, you had talked about God being in us allows us to kind of be built up for God to work through us.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of the same thing here, right? With Jesus, he's not going, all right, and probably Jesus could have just gone and done more miracles, right? He probably could have, all right, open the door to the house, let more people in, and keep going.
But also, you can't pour out unless you're being poured into.
And I think that's the point I wanted to get to there, which is the idea of, and I guess there's two ways to describe, right? The idea of being poured into, but also the idea of being built up, right? Jesus knew to continue what he was doing, right? He had to start the day on the right foundation, right? So, and as you said, right? If I use morning, I really mean when you start your day, right? How are you starting your day, right? I think Jesus, and you see throughout the scripture, right, that Jesus would go off early in the morning to pray on his own, right? There are times when he would pray with the disciples, but he always had this one-on-one time with God the Father. And I think he's trying to model for the disciples then, as well as us now, which is, hey, you need to have the right foundation when you start things. And for us, that foundation looks as, I feel like I'm going to say that wrong. Our foundation should be God in us. Let me just cut to the chase there, right? That's what our foundation is, right? If God isn't in us, yes, we can probably do some things and still do good deeds and things like that, and
Yeah.
God may still be able to work through us. Yet, when we don't have the foundation, right, it's almost a question of our longevity, right? How long can we actually keep this up?
Yeah.
How long can we continue on?
Like sustaining that.
Right. So again, we see here Jesus is teaching us an important example of, hey, he had to wake up before everyone else did, before the day really started.
I think that also showed how much of a priority he made it, right? So, like, especially after a long day of like preaching to the like multitudes of people, that's going to be exhausting, right? The physical toll it's going to have on him, just the fact that he was preaching to these big groups of people, you're going to want to take a day off, right? But the fact that he made it such a priority to get up at like the break of dawn before anyone else, like these were fishermen, right? So they're used to getting up early as well.
Yeah.
So the fact that he was up before any of them just to prioritize that quiet time with God also like shows how important that was.
And I think in doing so, because you actually see in the following portion of scripture, right? When the disciples finally find Jesus, they're like, everyone's looking for you, right? Because everyone has more demands on him, right? And in verse 38, we didn't read it, but he basically responds, we have to go to other towns, right? Like, my time here is done, right?
Yep.
And I think that's really interesting, because it's easy for us to, again, see the results of God working through us and be like, oh, I should just stay here and keep doing this, right? And Jesus goes, no, this is done. Time to move on. And I think that only happens when you have God in you, then he works through you, right? I think it's easy for us to, when we don't have God in us and we don't have that transformation of person, right? That process of sanctification, that process of becoming more and more Christ-like, it's easy for us to kind of want to keep pulling because we're seeing the results.
Yeah.
And it's easy for us to want to keep on. I got, I can do this for another day. I can give another hour. Whereas God's like, hey, look, what you did here was good, but it's time to move on. And I think a lot of us kind of sometimes miss that point.
And that's why I think it is important that he had God in him, because it's also guiding your path, right? So when God works through you, but he's not yet in you, I feel like it's more of like a one-off situation, right? So like, because he's working through you, yes, and that's a great thing, but he's not in you as of yet, so you can't guide your steps per se, right?
So, and to that, there's a few examples in the Bible of the comparison sort of God in us versus God just working through us, right? There's the example of, and for me at least, I look at the story of Joseph and his brothers, right? Because ultimately we know the story.
I never thought of it in that way.
Right? I don't know why you didn't hit that when you said, but
it was that like it caught me that off guard. That I never thought about it that way. That's how like in shock I was.
So we know that ultimately Joseph has to somehow get to Egypt because a famine is coming, right? And Joseph is going to be the one who's going to have the wisdom and the knowledge to prepare, I want to say, that the known world at that time for what's about to come, right?
Okay.
So how does that happen? Well, he has to get to Egypt. Joseph, when you look at his life, there was no reason for Joseph to leave his home.
Yeah.
Right? He was literally his dad's favorite of, I think, 12 siblings, right? Or 12 brothers. Does not include
any
sisters, right? And I believe there were a few there, right? So Joseph is the favorite, right? I think he gets this the multicolored coat, right? His father is giving him gifts, and his father's not even trying to hide the fact.
That must have been so messed up for the other brothers.
Yeah. Right? What's really messed up is after Joseph is gone, his like immediate sibling is the one that becomes like the next favorite, Benjamin.
The younger one.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. Because they're the only two from that one wife. So the rest of them are just kind of like cast aside, which is really messed up.
Ooh.
But we're not here to talk about family dynamics. But no, but again, so for Joseph to get there, what has to happen, right? We have to see God now work through his brothers, right? And what can only be described as a negative thing, really and truly, which is they throw him in a pit, they take his coat, put animal blood on it to give it to their father. So the father thinks he's dead, then realize they have to get rid of his body, but they don't want to kill him. So they sell him into slavery, right? So we see God working through multiple people to now just move Joseph from where they are to Egypt. Then even when he's in Egypt, to now get him from Potiphar's house to the palace itself, right? God has to, again now, there's a movement of God now through these, or I don't want to say God is working through these people because negative things are happening, but God is going to allow certain things to happen, right, to Joseph, right, that will eventually get him into the palace, right? Now, the flip side of that, though, is we see Joseph having this relationship with God that really wasn't dependent on God working through him, right? His relationship with God was God in him, right? Because one of the I guess famous lines from the story is how can I commit this great sin against God, right? And that's in relation to him and Potiphar's wife. But we see throughout the story now, because Joseph had a relationship with God and God is in Joseph, when it's time for God to work through Joseph, Joseph has such a solid foundation, right? That there's no question that this is God working through him. Right? I think you also see that with Daniel in the lion's den and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? This idea of God in you versus God just working through you, right? So one of the things for us to look at, right, is how do we start our days, right? I know we spoke about the idea of just, that time of praise and worship and having that attitude, but, and I guess we can use ourselves as an example, right? Do we, or do you take the time to actually wake up early enough to spend time with God before you get your day started?
Yes. So I try to make that a priority because girl likes to sleep, right? Girl don't like to wake up. So I really do try to make that a priority of like the way I start my day, because I think I have seen a significant change from when like I haven't done it versus when I have. So even if it's like a 5-minute like just talking to God in the morning, if I really have overslept and I can't, like I don't have time like that, or like just at least a little, like I try to make it a priority to spend some time with God in the morning, and then you kind of carry it throughout your day. So like you don't have to. I'm trying to figure out how to say this right, because you can pray at any time in the day, right? It doesn't have to be like a super. Because having that dedicated time to God, it is very important, right? So I'm not trying to say that it's not, but prayer can be like a very everyday typical thing. Like I'm walking down, like I could be walking to my car and I'm like praying, talking to God. It can be like a very everyday type of thing that you do, like a common thing that you do.
So what I was gonna say was, I think to what you're saying, that praying at the start of your day should not be the only conversation you have with God for the day. Right? Which again, I think is very similar to a relationship you have with like
a person.
Right? You can text them throughout the day, right? And I think that's the I mean, this is what happens with most people, right? You might be texting your friend throughout the day, you have your group chat, whatever, but there are certain times where you need to kind of have like a one-on-one
Yeah.
time with that person, right?
Mhm.
To really build a relationship, to strengthen a relationship. And I think it's the same thing with us and God. We're just saying, I think that, or Jesus models this idea that to really get things in the right priority, in the right order, you need to have that one-on-one time with God at the beginning of your day to set up your day.
Yep.
Right? And whether that's 5 minutes, if it's 10 minutes, whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? You need to have that time, right? I think one of the things that, like growing up in church, is you would hear sometimes like some guys would have like 2-3 hour things, and I'm like, part of me, especially as you become like an adult and you work, I'm like, where did you find time to do this? Like, how did you not work? What's Yeah, it's either you didn't work or you didn't sleep. There's something, or you're just lying. You were just lying. You're just straight up lying the whole time, right?
Look at you challenging people that actually do great stuff. That's mean.
I'm just saying, right? Because like even for me, like,
And you don't even sleep like that.
yeah, I don't.
He goes to bed late and wakes up early. Like, make it make sense.
Yeah. So, but one of the reasons I do wake up super early is
To have that time.
to have that
Yeah,
time.
that was one of my resolutions this year because I do have that time in the morning, but I need to make it more of a priority instead of more of a routine kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I like one of the things that kind of messed me up lately is I have to leave my house by about 7:15.
I wake up at 7:15.
Yeah. So I'm waking up at like 5 a.m. now to try and get, because if I don't, I know I'm not going to have that time with God, right? Because once I wake up, if I wake up too late, I got to get this done before I leave and things like that. So to make it a priority, I'm like, all right, I got to wake up obscenely early. But I also know the purpose in me doing that, right? Me making this a priority is not just to say that I did it, but no, I need God to direct my day, right? And without that, right, and even now, I think to some degree, because I'm waking up earlier, the prayers are shorter because honestly, at that time, I can only. It's not even the amount of time. It's like the amount of focus I have that early in the morning. But again, it's all right. I'm gonna connect with God now, and then obviously throughout the day, I'll pray, and it might just be sometimes once I've had the chance to like take a shower and like actually wake up, right? I can have a more coherent. Of course, I couldn't be coherent to say coherent, right? A more coherent conversation with God. But I think that's, again, something as believers that we have to sometimes be really intentional and kind of focus in on, right? How are we treating our relationship with God? Because it is easy to have, I mean, obviously, I think you want talking to God to be part of your routine, but you don't want it to be
Treat it like a routine.
Yeah, you don't want it to be just a mindless thing, you're just going through the motions. And I think a lot of us sometimes end up in that place.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I feel like you're going to say something.
Well, I was just going to say that like I spend more of like that time with God at night just because I am more awake and I like that's when I do a lot of my things. But it is, as I have been making it more of a priority to do it, like spend some time with him in the morning and just be mindful of the fact that I should be doing that. You can really see the difference within how like your day goes. Cause like even, like I said, you can pray throughout the day, right? Like when anything happens, just talk to God. It's like a friend, right? But once you have that, like, is the word consecrated time with him? Is that the phrase?
Guess.
I feel like it's a very strong word.
Let's see where you're going with
this. Once you have like that dedicated time to spending with him, it has made me like more mindful of the way that I act throughout the day, right? Or like how I react, because I'm a very like gut reaction kind of person, right? I can't control my face. So if you say something to me, I'm gonna react in that way, even if I bite my tongue. Like it's gonna happen. So even just that, I'll be like, why did you make that face? Because like I know I'm doing it. It's just catching myself before I do it. What? Say it. Say whatever you're gonna say.
Anyway, moving on.
She did it again.
Hope you caught it on camera.
I can't control it yet.
So with that,
That one was on purpose.
one of the I guess kind of the well, I guess I feel like we kind of spoke about that, right? Changing our approach to how we approach God. I feel like I said that really badly.
I mean, it makes sense. No, that was not a buzzer moment.
No, just to change the topic at that point. But yeah, I think a lot of us, we sometimes need to change our approach to God.
Yeah.
Right. Again, looking at this idea of God in us versus God just working through us, right? Because again, it's easy to come to church, it's easy to volunteer, right? And just have God work through us.
Yep.
But ultimately, I think our goal as believers is not just for God to work through us, but that there would be a genuine transformation
Within us.
Which would then motivate the God working through us, right? Yeah. There we go. That's it for tonight. I got nothing else.
Later.